All right, now for the fun bit. Last year, we did some AI generated images trying to create eruptions, and we try to make them as realistic as possible with the idea of potentially fooling people into thinking there's something happening that isn't happening by using programs like MidJourney and Dall-E, Stable Diffusion, Blue Willow, whatever. If it was good, if it was capable of producing something realistic, we were trying it out. But this year we wanted to revisit it. Lou and I have done a significant amount of image generation as well as working with language models and different AIs over the past year. So we want to see if the technology has gotten better, if we've gotten better, and if we could produce something that's more realistic than something like this. Let's go ahead and get into it. So here we have just a comparison between last year and this year, trying to create Hilo, Hawaii at night, looking across the ocean, a bayfront, up the volcano of Mauna Loa, erupting towards the town. Red glow illuminates the night and reflects off the ocean water. Now we have a little bit of all that going on in the 2023 Dall-E, but when we come over to 2024, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing there is much more depictive of what's happening, especially with the water. MidJourney seems to do pretty well with the water and the reflections, the light that it's trying to portray here. But the thing that gets me about it is that this body of water almost feels like it does exist in Hilo, being where would this? How do you describe this? Near the hotels. Um, over by what is it, Verna's, or over by
Exactly.
Verna's.
We looked at this quite a bit, didn't we? We're like, man, this is pretty good.
We're just getting started. This is our warm up.
This is a warm up.
And then we get the craziness of Dall-E now. We're going to talk about Dall-E now, but we'll save that whole rant until you get a little more accustomed to, until everybody sees how Dall-E is progressing in this whole experiment.
So both MidJourney and Dall-E new versions this year. We went from 5.2 for MidJourney, is that correct? To from Dall-E 2 to Dall-E 3. So both of them have version upgrades.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would give Dall-E 2, the old version that's on the right there, the nod on whatever this is.
Now remember, we're trying to create the most realistic, natural looking image possible. And this is what they give us.
Just keep that in mind as we proceed. All right. So MidJourney 2023. This was one of the strongest ones we had out of MidJourney. And this was when a few new tools came out and we were able to create what was supposed to be a volcano erupting in residential neighborhoods, burning houses, cars on fire. Well, there's no cars and the house is on fire, but I don't really see a lava flow. You can imply that there's one there, but you don't really see it that well. And a lot of the road looks fine and much of the surrounding looks fine, but it's really just the asphalt on fire is part of the problem. It makes it easier to identify. This is harder. That's the new one. And yeah, that's pretty strong. Some of the cars maybe don't look completely realistic, but that fissure running behind the houses, maybe that house would be completely engulfed in flame. You could argue that, but this is pretty strong. And we're starting to get to the point where deceiving is actually possible in terms of nuance here. The vegetation, we have Norfolk pines being
picked up on that
superimposed against a fissure. Now I've seen that in real life, Norfolk pines with a fissure behind them. It looks a lot like that. They're silhouettes. And the other vegetation here, you can see all of that being vegetation that we see or encounter in Hawaii. The houses, maybe the one that's in the fissure is a little fancy for Puna, and maybe the street doesn't look like Puna.
But the lanai on the photo with the house on the right side of the photo, that's pretty much us.
That's stronger. Us. The power lines, maybe not so hot. And that's going to be one thing. If you pay attention to the power lines, you'll start to see things that tell you that the power lines are a good spot to point out that it's AI. Top left, it's like, yeah, that's not a US design. There's no way Helco is signing off on that.
Nope.
So you can start to spot the nuances in it, but it's pretty good, especially when you start seeing the reflection of the fissure off of the windows. That actually happens, and it's that bright. It is so there's some really impressive things in here. This was my favorite one. This has got to be my favorite one.
This was pretty good. We worked on last year. We worked on Oahu shots for a long time, and we're pretty amazed last year. This year, it stepped it up.
Yeah. So one of the things here, if you're looking at the prompt, that prompt doesn't seem all that sophisticated. We've tried much more sophisticated prompts and got much worse results. This one is wild to me because those buildings, first it gets Diamond Head's shape and the proximity and all of the different areas pretty much spot on. So you can see here on the right, this is just Google Street View. You can get a version down there to look at it, and or you can get the street view of Waikiki, and it looks very similar. The one thing that was funny to me is I actually forgot or didn't know that there was these hotels out on the point there, which you see on the right side of the image. And I was using feature corrections to try and have those buildings removed. And MidJourney just kept re-putting them there. No matter what I tried, it was like, nope, these buildings stay. And I had to go and do the street view to be like, huh, I guess there are buildings right there.
Blown away that there were buildings there. I had to look on Google Maps and just look for myself. I was sure that there was nothing out that far, but they're there.
So some other the things that are strong here is the sun is in the right location. It's a morning sunrise coming up. The ocean looks strong. Light waves coming in, no big over. It looks again kind of like it does in the photo. So realistic there. The eruption is taking place inside the caldera as we were wanted, inside the Diamond Head crater. That's exactly what we're after. And then the wind patterns and everything, like where the wind is going and the fallout that's coming out of that all makes sense. That all seems legitimate to me. Parts that don't seem, now that's the good. Let's talk about the ugly. Mainly these people here. One of them in the very center there. I can't point him out easily, but in the very center,
straight in. Can't miss.
He's got, seems like he has a tail or 3 legs.
I thought it was a third leg dangos. No, I think that's a tail.
Yeah. So that might indicate that it's AI generated when you see extra appendages, or the guy to the left that looks like, I don't know, he's out of the back rooms. Doesn't look like a person. A lot of these, there's good shit. There are people in here that look real, but there's a few of them in there, if you have a keen eye, that you'd see that do not. And this one, we took the image in the top left and we asked it to do something that the AI generators don't do, which is just colorizing images. There's AI that are trained specifically for that, but not these image generators. But we want to see what they do anyways. We're just messing around. And last year I told it to colorize and make it hyper realistic, this explosion from Halemaumau in 1924. And we got these images on the left of this redhead girl that keeps appearing. So redid the same prompt with the same image and told it to, colorize the image and make it hyper realistic. And now all 4 images are of this redhead woman with freckles. Kind of strange. So we told it, hey, yeah, don't do that. Just colorize it. And we come to here and it's going completely wild on both sides, both last year and this year. So then I told it, no faces. Do not put a face. And last year when we did that, it made these color explosions. Half of them still had faces in it. But the craziest one to me when I told it no faces is that the woman then got put into a burqa. All right, this is where MidJourney starts to show off a little bit. These are both from this year. but I wanted to showcase some of the new features. This is a Mauna Loa eruption on Hawai'i Island, hyper detailed, photorealistic, and we're just rolling through images until we get one that works, like this one on the left here, and then we want to play with it to see if we can make it better. So right now this image is a square 1x1, but suppose we wanted to make it a wide angle. We can take that same image that we initially generated and expand it out to both sides and zoom it out. And this is actually pretty strong, especially the Pahoehoe. Like, we're going to talk about the different types of lava and its ability to portray them realistically. But this is probably one of the stronger on the left side there, that that's hardened. That looks pretty strong.
This is the one we talked about before you jump into that next one. This is that shot that we talked about that I said when Anna and I summited Mauna Loa, that could have been right where we camped one night, somewhere maybe dewy cone or steaming cone, because you brought up, well, I don't know about that hill in the back there. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of there.
The fissure looks good. The Pahoehoe is the giveaway where it's still molten. Doesn't look like that, but it's getting the ropey textures and stuff. It just throws orange in randomly because it doesn't know where to put it, but pretty good. Now, last year's, this one on the right went completely wild, and this was one of the better images that it was able to produce. The other ones were completely nonsense. And we're trying to create a Mauna Kea eruption at near the observatories, right, to show what that might look like. And the one on the right, completely crazy, but the one on the left, that's kind of realistic there. That could fool somebody, especially with the way that the mountain protrudes above the clouds. That's classic Mauna Kea summit sunrise right there, with a eruption down slope from it. And that's even realistic too, because we don't, with Mauna Loa, or Mauna Kea, you go look at it and there's all these cones that are scattered around, not at the summit. So you could believe that it could erupt in that type of a location with those types of clouds. And yeah, it's not the exact observatories layout, but for somebody that's not familiar with it, might convince them.
Oh, here we go.
So this one's you. You want to talk through this one?
The agony begins. Yes, the challenge with Dall-E 3. We didn't have the prompt for this, so I just put the photo into Dall-E and asked it to create a prompt for me, and this is what it came up with. It says, hello, I'm Dall-E 3 Ultra, and I will be your partner on your image generation journey, which it is truly a journey when you deal with Dall-E. And it came up with a group of people watching an erupting volcano in the distance with dramatic clouds, glowing lava visible. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is kind of how it wants you to prompt it.
So generating your image. Is that what you wanted?
Well, no, not really. Okay, so I take the good and the bad here, right? The volcano, no. But I do take the people in the foreground. It kind of got them a little bit better than I anticipated, and the bushes. But other than that, and the fog rolling there. But no, that is so unrealistic. It's unbelievable.
One thing I'm going to point out here, because I'm going to start pointing it out more and more, is the road lines, right? I pay attention to that kind of stuff. Those road lines are not U.S. road lines. There is no center white line in the U.S., especially in Hawaii, like that. So when I see that, I'm like, it's just putting a line. It's just making a road. And that might not matter, except when you need when those details matter and you're trying to make it look as realistic as possible. And it's impressive when things start to get it right. That's where I get impressed. It's like it gets the detail like that correct. Yeah. So getting this wrong, it's like there's a lot wrong here. So just Mauna Loa erupting in Hawaii. Simple.
Simple.
Right? Give it the simplest thing that we can. We did this last year, and this was what we got. Not bad.
Really. No, this one at first glance was like, no, we didn't like it. And then it kind of grew on us a little bit like, okay, we're seeing some possibilities here.
And I don't see this, like, to me, it's not an eruption. This doesn't show an eruption. This shows
Right.
a rock fall at Pu'u'o or something like that. This old shield volcano that had a crater that built up, and then the lava withdrew, and now it's collapsing. This is a giant rock fall. Makes that same reddish plume. Looks very similar to this. So this year,
Good and bad here, huh? Good and bad on this one.
so first things first is it's not in the rift zone. Now that can happen. It can be a radial eruption, right? We've seen that, like, what was it, 1859? That was the last radial eruption. They have something like a 2 to 3% chance of happening for an eruption on Mauna Loa, so pretty low. Still can happen, still has happened, and that's what it seems to be showing here. The other interesting thing is it seems that it did start up the slope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the eruption started further upslope, and then it sprung a leak down here. And that looks like an erupting vent, not like a lava tube is popping out. So that's just what I'm seeing here. The dead giveaways, though, is just this river that at the bottom that seems to just, or road. I don't know what it is, but either way,
it's a creek.
Either way, it just ends abruptly, and that's, unrealistic. The color of the lava, not realistic, but the plume is pretty strong. The fog coming off of the cone is pretty good, and the vegetation, the coloration, we'll say, of the vegetation is accurate for the saddle. And that's what we'd also seem to be on Mauna Kea looking over at Mauna Loa, also accurate, so the perspective is there. Does have some issues. This is probably, though, Dall-E's best showing, in my opinion.
100%.
So we wanted to create realistic lava, right? We wanted to test its ability to first start with Pohoihoi and then do A'a, the two different types of lava. The Pohoihoi being ropey and smooth and creating plates, with the A'a being crumbly rocks that are just stacked or thrown on top of each other. So we see the 2023 attempt at Pohoihoi. It's got the ropey attempt at it. The lava does not look accurate at all. I had more high hopes for this year with seeing how it was performing, and it's still pretty unrealistic, to be honest. None of this really looks like Pohoihoi. It's kind of got the ropey features right, but again, it just throws orange into areas because it doesn't know what to do.
I did not expect it to downgrade.
Let's just blow these are the best ones of those up, in my opinion. And the funny thing about this one on the right is it almost looks more like a lava channel. Yeah, it's not good. Let's look at some A'a, and it basically Pohoihoi. It's same attempt at Pohoihoi that it failed at before, so it doesn't understand A'a. So this was with the special character, and this is without the special character, and it's basically the same. However, that top left on the right side, let's blow that up a little bit. Even though it's after A'a, it's trying to create A'a. This is probably its best attempt at a Pohoihoi lava flow. And with MidJourney, we can expand it over. And it's not realistic, but it's better. It's just not A'a. Doesn't look all that realistic, but it's getting closer. Dall-E had made the same attempts. We asked it for A'a. This was 2023. We get Pohoihoi. It's actually Pohoihoi that's better than the MidJourney Pohoihoi. And then 2024. Here you go, Lou.
Yeah, this was interesting for me. After, I didn't get MidJourney this year. I got Dall-E. Dane did all the MidJourney stuff. And once I spent the first 6 hours just in misery, I started evolving with Dall-E and trying to teach it some things. And then when I thought things were going well, it gives me the sphere of hope. I don't know what this is, but it gets better. Definitely gets better.
So then you try it again.
I did it some more. Yep.
I mean, it's got the rubbly bits. I mean, it's trying. It's just it's like it's a weird combination between A'a and Pohoihoi here.
I kind of thought of it as a bulldozer picking up a scoop and just dumping it, and that's what we would get. And one more in there. I know there is the barbecue. I titled this one the barbecue because it looks like coals, right?
Yeah.
Our Kiave barbecue coals. It just got worse and worse.
Well, I don't know. That ball was pretty bad to start. It just stayed worse. It started worse and stayed worse. Going to Pahoehoe again, it's probably better than MidJourney at making Pahoehoe. And then it just goes crazy with the swirls.
Yeah, it went awfully ropey, didn't it?
Awful ropey.
And all of them did too.
Yeah, all of this was a common issue, and we saw this last year too.
This is where I got in trouble.
Yeah.
I got into trouble here because Dall-E just wants you to part-time only go unimaginable, unrealistic, and to prevent any type of misleading images. And a fissure open near Hilo.
Yeah, everything about this is
just wrong. But
it's got palm trees though.
It does have palm trees. It does. And we're going to see it get even better. Take us away to the next one. So I asked it to add people and boats on fire. And it gave it to me. It gave me people standing around the new swimming hole. And then again, I think Dall-E is just really trying to prevent any type of realistic photos or images.
Any kind of destruction, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Constantly warning
me. He's trying to. He adds boats on fire and adds people and boats on fire, and then he just says zoom in, and it goes from being just a really unrealistic volcano to being some kind of space laser that's cutting 20 meters into the ground.
And a common theme that Dane picked up on all my shots was the laser beam from the sky of lava.
Yeah, for some reason, Dall-E just has this kind of tendency, but this was one of the worst ones.
One thing between last year and this year was when we asked it to put words in and letters in last year, MidJourney as well as Dall-E, they both struggled with words. And this year we started to see it try to put words in. And on that moving truck that is there watching the lava lightning, it actually says, I think, Bayport on there or Baypont.
Yeah.
I mean,
just ignore how it's merging with the van.
Yeah, just ignore that part of it.
Ignore that part. But besides that.
But it's attempting. So maybe by next year, it'll be doing full sentences.
It's just Dall-E. They're ran by OpenAI, which is the guys behind ChatGPT. So they're the biggest boys on the block, whereas MidJourney, they're just an image generator that started on Discord as a bot. There are different worlds that they're that these companies operate in, and OpenAI has a lot more to lose, and you can see it by the generations that it produces.
Yeah,
like this one. So pushing tsunami pushing boats onto land from the Hilo harbor or the harbor in Hilo Bay.
Realistic.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know, the Niagara Falls things going on, and hey, there's a Norfolk pine though. So
yes, there is.
But yeah, just wild, and it doesn't get better. It gets worse. So at least it's the sea cliffs. We have those, and that water does splash up there, and it does run off like that. The thing that gets me is, why is there a bunch of people on just like standing there looking at this 40-50 foot wave about to smash them? But hey,
could it be the fishing trawlers that are right offshore?
That too. I mean, all of it.
But because how many we get. How many of those we get here close to shore.
Right. They get closer, and there's also a space boat. If you notice that on the top, that's a very expensive boat.
Yeah.
So now we tried over on MidJourney the same thing, and we're already doing better. We're already got something that looks kind of believable here. And we take that and we start expanding it over. We can add another boat and some buildings. Maybe doesn't look exactly like Hilo, but maybe somewhat believable. But say I don't like that bottom left, all that vegetation there. Let's just get rid of that and replace that with some more water there. Better. right? It's better. It's not perfect, but there's plenty here that you can pick up on. One of the big tells here would be, again, the power lines. Why are the power lines going out into the ocean?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a tell. And then that's been one of my new heuristics where I'm looking at these images. I'm like, oh, just look at the power lines. If the power lines are wrong, then it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of that, this is probably one of the more realistic ones that we got to come across. We tried Hawaii citizens clearing a power line during a hurricane. Tried it on the left there with Dall-E. Makes no sense at all.
None.
And then we tried it on the right here, and that's strong for a few reasons here. First reason it's strong is it gets the road lines correctly. The double yellow with the white on the outside. It also gets the street light correct, and it also gets the blue light on a civilian vehicle correct to be the police. Gets all that correct. The lawn and the power poles themselves, just the poles, their location. We do have some of that kind of stuff happening in Hilo. Maybe not that close to the road, but we're talking about a foot or two, right? And a lot of this is pretty dang real that I think you could get somebody with this, unless they were looking at the power lines. As soon as you look at the power lines, okay, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of India going on up there, and that doesn't look like Hawaii at all. In terms of all the wires, all the loose wires. Helco, they're trying to save money. They're not putting that much slack in that many wires across. No way.
Nope.
First glance, I think you could get somebody with that.
Yeah, much better than Dall-E that has a guy with his arm behind him.
Yeah.
And a helicopter in the middle of
and a wave that blends into a cloud.
Yeah.
The Dall-E stuff is just pretty rough. So this was me trying to be as realistic as I could and taking some real time with the thing to try and create essentially what I'm going for here. My goal, even though it's not in the prompt, is to create a blockage on the red road, Highway 137, that runs through Puna. It's a narrow road. It's a single lane, double lane type road. It doesn't have any stripes on it. It doesn't have any poles on either side of it. It's just a run through the jungle, right? And I want to create a down tree across it that blocks the highway. That is the goal. And this is where I started off with. Not ideal in terms of stuff that I'm trying to create a large blockage that's going to be realistic and hard for locals even to identify. So after a while, I was able to get this to generate, and this was very strong, but it has some issues. But let's start off with the strengths. One of the things that really got me about this one was how the grass on the side of the road seems to grow on top of the pavement. You're like, oh, maybe that's unrealistic. No, that's very realistic for Hawaii. Like, yeah, I've seen that plenty. And create a big albizia tree. Yep, that looks like an albizia tree to me. The trunk of it looks like an albizia, the vegetation growing off the side of it. The things that are unrealistic is that double yellow line. This road does not have a double yellow line. So I wanted to get rid of that. And also the guardrail. There is no guardrails. Not there, not on the inside, not where you're looking. So we need to try and fix those. First, the line. And we now got just the guardrail to deal with. So let's get rid of that and replace it with some down palm trees. And now we're looking like something. Now this looks like something I could show somebody that's even driven the red road. Like, oh yeah, blocked up just past McKenzie, and show them the photo. And I might just get them. I was very impressed by this.
Well, you know what, too? If we're sending that via phones to each other around here, and the majority of people have older phones, they're not running a Samsung 24. They're running an old version of something. It's going to look distorted anyway, so they're only going to see a somewhat clear picture, which would even make it even more realistic, because it could be anywhere down there. This one got me too.
Yeah. Now we completed a civil defense program to be able to do damage assessments and report those back by civil defense and have them incorporated into what they do there, as well as at the federal level. So we got to thinking, like, what if we could fake damage assessments, not just for that, but for insurance purposes, right? You never know what people would try. So we tried it ourselves first. And Dall-E, not really doing anything for me here.
No.
Kind of all over the place. It looks like things are melting, like the house is melting.
Yep.
We tried it on MidJourney as well. Or first we tried some more on Dall-E, and yeah, it's trying. It doesn't understand the 4 angles. It doesn't understand, because we're trying to get multiple photos of the same thing from different angles, and Dall-E doesn't seem to get it.
No.
And this is, again, one of its probably better photos that it was able to do. But again, trying to do a drone look at it, it just looks cartoony.
And that was supposed to be, this one is supposed to be that same house.
Right. It doesn't.
Just a drone view. No.
So now we try it on MidJourney. So same thing, but we're trying to generate multiple pictures of the same house. And MidJourney does it pretty good. Well, the issue is that if you start to pay attention, you'll realize, like, on the bottom left, there's a bush, and you look at it, it's a slightly different angle on the top, but it's still relatively the same, and the bush is gone. Surprise, surprise. But the rest of the vegetation, pretty close. Even the little grass spots are seemingly in the same place. It even keeps the windows the same. It keeps the doors. The house is the same when it does this. So that's pretty cool. The problem is that as soon as I started to try and make it better on this one, I made it worse every time. Like, it got it. This one on the left is as good as it gets for what we were trying to do, create storm damage. So that's pretty strong. Even the Norfolk pines in the back, like if you look at the bottom two, you see those 3 Norfolks or those 4 Norfolks in the background. It has the same 4 Norfolks in it. I was like, I'm proud of y'all, MidJourney. You're getting better. And then I started playing with it, and I got stuff like on the right, like consistently. And then it started changing the house between photos. So you can make it happen, but there's limitations to how far you can get it. And this is probably as best as I could be able to get it. And then the next thing, so we're doing the same prompt, trying to damage that roof and da-da-da. But look at that lava.
Yeah,
that lava looks real. That looks like a hoi field of some kind. I just felt like throwing that in there. So the problem with those were that we were creating fictional houses, right? And that's the problem here as well, is we're creating fictional houses. But I wanted to test out MidJourney with a fallen tree. So I had a tree fall on the house, and then I wanted to just expand the house a little bit. And the thing went a little crazy because it doesn't know how much to expand the house. So we get all these different dimensions, from very skinny on the top left to very big on the bottom right. And it just seems like it's progressively getting bigger as it goes through. And the best image is that top right one. Looks the closest. Typically out here we run the stripes on the house there. They're grooves, and that's typically T111 plywood that we use commonly out here for housing, for exterior walls, and it gets that pretty much accurate. All right.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so we were towards the end of this journey, and we started I started getting a little bit more creative to see how far I could push this, because we really want to be able to know what it's going to allow people to do. And I'd already experienced so much with the warnings. So you can see I put an airplane crash into Hilo Bayfront that is very realistic. And there's my warning. The first
of
many.
Dave.
I'm sorry,
I cannot
Dave.
do this.
It says, hey, it seems that there are content policy restrictions with your request. Try updating your request. So I changed it. An airplane failed emergency landing. So all I did was change emergency landing.
It's a failed emergency landing.
So here comes our failed emergency landing.
I mean, that just looks like a plane taking off from like
every
Miami
day.
Or something. I don't know.
Anywhere. Yeah.
So that's just a plane. So
didn't want to do
work.
Try it again.
That's just a plane. That didn't work.
Didn't like it again.
So
And
the
finally,
prompt changes.
an airplane that is half in the water and half on land was the prompt. And
It's doing. I mean, this is somewhat realistic because we just had that Southwest Airlines flight
yes,
on the
what was
Boeing drop down to 400 feet above the ocean, and what did
Right.
they call it? A Dutch
the
roll.
Dutch roll, or Dall-E is got
It does
somebody
not
putting
want to do it.
no,
Like
somebody's putting some heavy restrictions on Dall-E.
airplane crash, no way.
No.
Meanwhile, on MidJourney, it's like you want to
Okay.
crash, here's your crash. MidJourney doesn't have those types of constraints on it. It just goes with what you ask for. So there's multiple plane crashes here, it looks like. But that wasn't what we wanted. We wanted to make it realistic. This was just the starting point. This was the first thing that returned. So we took that and we played with it. And we turned it into this. Slightly different. We used some very strong variants on it to increase the randomness. And it's pretty good. There's lots of things that I like about it. Things, though, I don't like. I don't like that palm tree that's missing the middle of it. I don't like the debris on the shoreline in the foreground. That's particularly on the shore. So let's see if we can change that. First, the tree. Oh, I guess we did it all in one go.
Yeah, we did one shot.
So we replaced the tree and fixed it using the AI regional, where you select certain regions to change. Just an airplane crash in an area that kind of looks like Hilo maybe could get fooled, but
Hilo in the 70s.
Yeah, it went through a time machine, including the plane molder. But
yeah.
And I was seeing that about MidJourney. I was trying it even when I was doing that the tree across the road. I was trying to put a guy with a truck standing beside it or parked off to the left, and him just to be holding a saw or whatever. And it kept putting like 1950s trucks that were run down. I'm like, man, those are too old for even Puna.
That's kind of been a common theme through most of except for the bus during that last emergency landing shot, but all the vehicles have been older.
Especially on MidJourney. MidJourney likes its older vehicles. And we appreciate everybody for sticking in here and going through this rather unique compared to our normal broadcast.
That's right.
AI special.
Make sure you look down and hit that thumbs up before you go out the door. And if you're not subscribed, that's the big red button down there as well. Thanks, everybody.